Over the last few years, SZA has risen as one of the new prominent R&B pop stars in the music industry. She managed to find her way to the top of the charts and hasn't left since. Dropping hit after hit has allowed her to grow a massive loyal fan base that only seems to keep on growing. Right now, it appears that SZA might just be the next Beyonce or Rihanna, as no other female artist is coming close to her right now. While her fans can't get enough of her, none of them seem to realize SZA has a dark secret. A secret that would 100% change the way people look at her and her success. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be exposing SZA. Let's get right into it. Over the last few years, SZA has really shown that she is one of the top female artists out now. She has dropped so many hit songs that no other female has really been able to compete with her. It's obvious that she's here to stay, and that she might have just taken the top female pop R&B spot. She has the streams and fan base to prove it. Her fans have gotten her all the way to the top. The only thing is, her fans have no idea what SZA did to make it. In today's episode, we will be exposing the unknown truth about SZA, how she became a failing artist to one of the biggest stars in the industry. SZA has been in the industry for quite some time now. She dropped her first independent project back in 2012, which ended up getting her signed to TDE in 2013. TDE signed her, and she would go on to drop her third project, Z. This was the start of her music career, but it didn't take off right away. In fact, for several years after SZA signed to TDE, her music didn't really sell. She was actually flopping project after project, as her project Z made it on the charts but only sold under 7,000 copies. That is 100% a flop. It didn't look good for SZA, and after years of her career not working out, it was surprising that TDE didn't just drop her. In 2014, SZA went through a rebranding, and it wasn't until 2017 that she was reintroduced to the world when she dropped her album Control. Now she can't stop dropping hits. Just like that, SZA went from a failing artist to a top-selling artist. But how? What really took place that allowed her to come back as a star when her music wasn't really showing much promise? Well, SZA's career was almost guaranteed, as it was set up for her since the very beginning. See, SZA wasn't discovered, she was planted in the music industry, and I'll explain exactly what I mean. SZA was actually born to two very successful and wealthy parents. Her mother Audrey was an executive at AT&T, while her father Abdul Mubarak Rowe actually had connections in the industry, as he was an executive producer for CNN for over 16 years. He worked for CNN starting in 1989 all the way into 2006. Her parents were of high society and were connected in the industry. Also, SZA's come-up story sounds like every other industry plant, and I believe her father must have paid to get her in the industry. You see how I mentioned earlier that SZA signed to TDE in 2013 after she dropped her project? Well, that is not true, and it seems to just be the cover story. As I dug further into SZA, I found out that she actually signed to TDE back in 2011 after her then boyfriend at the time was friends with Kendrick Lamar. This boyfriend hired Kendrick to perform at an event he had going on, and this is when Punch from TDE was given SZA's music. SZA had been working with TDE since 2011, before she had any buzz or fan base. They said they signed her in 2013 because they don't want people to know that she's an industry plant and that they were the ones who developed her from scratch. SZA has been signed since 2011 before she had any buzz or fan base. In fact, even after she was signed, she still didn't have much of a fan base for years. But it didn't matter because they were going to make her a star no matter what, and that's exactly what they did. Now we have to talk a bit about TDE before we continue. TDE was created by Top Dawg, whose real name is Anthony Tiffith. Anthony was an industry insider as he worked with Dr. Dre and The Game in the 2000s. Top Dawg obviously has connections with Dr. Dre, as he's from the West Coast and worked with Dr. Dre when he was working under The Game. That's how Kendrick ended up signing a joint venture deal between TDE and Aftermath Records, which is Dr. Dre's label. TDE being connected to Dr. Dre already tells us that TDE is involved in the occult. I have exposed Dr. Dre already as being one of the gatekeepers in the music industry. He actually put out this song called Puppet Masters, showing himself dressed up as a satanic priest, while B-Rail from Cypress Hill is dressed up as the devil himself. This video was supposed to represent Dr. Dre's position in the music industry. He is shown as the high priestess, recruiting the puppets for the devil, the puppet master. This video was full of occult themes because Dr. Dre and most artists in the music industry are occultists, as we already know. TDE has been connected to Dr. Dre since the beginning, and just like Dre is an occultist, so is everyone at TDE. I have already exposed Kendrick Lamar in this video for being an occultist, as he confessed to it himself. It's the same thing with J-Rock, who has used occult themes and lyrics in his music, with Ab-Soul is as open as day, and he's not even trying to hide it. Like I mentioned before, he admitted to being an occultist and a follower of Crowley's Thelema.
And Mr. Crowley has been instrumental throughout music for before I was born. You know what I mean? Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. There's a lot of great artists that, you know, are the building blocks for even hip hop. Me understanding that, you know what I mean, and you know, digging into his story and, you know, understanding why he's been so, you know, relevant and, you know, influential in music culture. You know, I think it was important for me to, you know, reinstill that. If you didn't know that, if you missed that part, you know, if you missed that part of the culture of music in general, it's beyond hip hop, but just music in general, he's had a big influence on the culture. At first sight, he's the wickedest man alive, right? That's what you know, he's a very wicked man. But if you dig into the poetry and you read between the lines of his poetry, you know, you dig into his story, a lot of the things will make more sense to you. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it made a lot of sense with me. A lot of the things that he discusses resonates with me. I just want to leave you with this. You know, my album is called Do What Thou Wilt, and it's based off. It's influenced by Crowley's The Book of the Law. Love, Thelema. Love is the law. Love is the only law. Love under will. The law is for all. If you read the Christian Bible, that's the only commandment that Jesus...
He made an album titled after the credo of Thelema, Do What Thou Wilt. Ab-Soul claims to be a Christian, but also admits to being a follower of Aleister Crowley, who proclaimed himself to be the Beast 666, and repeatedly made it clear he was opposed to Christianity. Ab-Soul, Kendrick Lamar, and Schoolboy Q are all occultists, and it's the same thing with SZA. If you guys want me to make a full video exposing TDE, comment TDE below, and if at least 1,000 people comment TDE, I'll make sure the next video will be on that. After looking into SZA, I noticed that she herself is into the occult and witchcraft. I wasn't surprised by this at all, as she came from a family that was already connected in the industry. She was planted in, and she signed to TDE, a label full of occultists. In fact, SZA has been showing us she's an occultist since she signed to TDE. Just like all the other artists that are into the occult, we can find SZA doing the same poses that we see all the other occultists doing. In this photo, she can be seen doing the one-eye symbolism, showing she took the Masonic oath, placing one hand over her eyes to show the one-eye symbolism. In this photo, she can be seen standing next to her father doing the shush pose, showing she took the oath of secrecy. Interestingly enough, she's next to her father, the man who was already in the industry, and I believe is a Masonic puppet himself. In this photo, we can see SZA concealing one hand inside of her jacket, doing the Masonic hidden hand pose. This is a Masonic pose called the hidden hand, and is done by Masons to secretly show they are master Masons. Now, women are not allowed to join most Masonic lodges, but they can join the Masonic Eastern Stars, which is the female version of Masonry, what I believe SZA's a part of. If I were to guess, considering that her father is most likely a Mason himself, SZA could have been a part of the Rainbow Girls organization, which is a youth Masonic program for young girls that are daughters of Freemason members, meaning SZA could have been raised in Masonry. Now, if we look at SZA's tattoos, we find even more proof of her occult ties, as she is covered in occult symbols. She has a serpent tattooed on her finger, which we find many occultists doing. Occultists use serpents to symbolize Lucifer. Occultists see Lucifer as a light bearer and the liberator. He is at the core of all occult knowledge, so it makes perfect sense SZA would tattoo the serpent on her finger. Then we also find her with a yin and a yang symbol tattooed, which is a symbol of duality. This symbol is meant to represent the Masonic duality, which is the core principles of the Masonic Lodge, the black and the white, the good and the evil. That's why there is a checkerboard floor found at every single Masonic Lodge. She also has a very popular tattoo that many occultists get, which is the butterfly. The butterfly represents the occult transformation of the great work. The rebirth, as a butterfly is reborn when they go from a cocoon to a butterfly. The butterfly tattoo has also been linked to MKUltra. SZA also has a back tattoo that 100% confirms she's an occultist. On her back, SZA has a 6-point star tattooed covered in different occult symbols. Now, most people know this star as the Star of David, a symbol that is mostly used by Jewish people. But obviously, SZA is not Jewish, so why is she using this symbol? This symbol is actually used in alchemy to represent the great work, the transformation. It's also a variation of Crowley's symbol for Thelema, which is also a 6-point star. Now, I believe she got this tattoo due to its connection to alchemy and Thelema, the same practice that the rest of TDE is into, not because of the Star of David. This tattoo alone proves that SZA is into the occult, but I still have plenty of more evidence. Now, when we start to look at some of the lyrics in her music, she tells us herself that she is an occultist. In SZA's song Blind, she has some questionable lines that are clearly red flags. In the first verse, she sings, "Might get possessed, let my spirit speak freely." And also in another line on the second verse, she sings, "Mama told me never ask where you lay at. I don't want righteousness." In this song, SZA is speaking about how her spirit speaks freely when she is possessed, referring to spirit channeling, a practice that's big for artists who are occultists. Many artists that practice the occult channel spirits to help them write songs. Whether you believe it works or not doesn't matter, because these artists believe it. She is also telling us she doesn't want righteousness, which speaks for itself. SZA also has a song called Saturn where she's praising Saturn. Those of you who watch my channel often know that occultists heavily worship the god Saturn. Saturn, the god of time and magic, is connected to sacrifice and is worshipped by many occultists. Many celebrities show praise to Saturn, like Adele, who has a Saturn tattoo on herself, or Doja Cat, who in this photo could be seen holding Saturn. Even Beyonce and Ariana Grande are also Saturn worshippers. Grande was literally in an interview explaining the importance of Saturn to herself and how she was waiting for Saturn to come back in alignment.
The role of astrology in your life has meaning, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even tarot cards. When I went to the
Yeah,
studio,
yeah.
you gave me a reading. You've been doing readings on set.
Yeah.
What do you look to astrology for? Is it understanding of what you're going through? Is it an understanding of what will be?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a tool to help us hear what we need to hear sometimes and kind of look forward with hope and awareness, and also reads us for filth sometimes. Sometimes we need to hear it, and just looking to something bigger than us to kind of help us make sense of it. Does that make sense?
Totally. By the way, if you don't know what it is when you're born, Saturn's in a certain position, and it takes 29 and a half years for Saturn to return to that position. And when it returns to that position, you are faced with deep awareness of oneself and a confronting of patterns, correct?
Yes.
And a wake up.
Course correction, one would
Course
say.
correction.
Saturn is the Lord of the Rings, and many occultists see him as a representation of Lucifer. That's why SZA has this song called Saturn. In the song, SZA sings about how life's better on Saturn and how she dreams about Saturn. In the song, she sings, "Life's better on Saturn, got to break this pattern of floating away, finding something worth saving. It's all for the taking. I always say, I'll be better on Saturn. None of this matters. Dreaming of Saturn." This is SZA showing her praise for Saturn, proving that she is an occultist. SZA also has another song with a very interesting title. The song is called Babylon. To most people that might not mean anything, but if they're an occultist follower of Aleister Crowley, that means a whole lot. Crowley teaches that Babylon is a goddess that women can channel through spirit channeling. When women channel the spirit of Babylon, they become the Scarlet Woman. Crowley called all of his female companions the Scarlet Woman because they would perform this channeling ritual. In SZA's music video, since early we can find Masonic imagery, like her music video for her song The Weeknd, in which she could be seen dancing on the Masonic checkerboard floor that was randomly placed in a parking lot. This is done to show her alliance to the Masonic order. As every Masonic lodge has a checkerboard floor in it, like I mentioned earlier, we see more imagery pointing to the occult in her video Good Day. The music video is literally an entire ritual, and most people don't even realize it. They start the video with a shot of an open book sitting on the floor. We then see SZA laid out next to the open book, appearing passed out. They then show imagery to indicate that she is hallucinating, and they briefly display the one-eye symbolism. We then see SZA in a magical world where she can be seen ritually dancing. They show magic forming around SZA to indicate that she is performing a ritual. By the end of the video, they again show SZA passed out next to the book. They were showing us that SZA was under a trance from hallucinating under substances that she took to perform a ritual. That's why the book was open, and that's why we see her passed out next to it. But at the same time, they're showing us her in another world. This entire video was SZA performing an occult ritual, just like we saw her doing in her PSA video. In that video again, we see SZA ritually dancing in the middle of a magical circle. Again, another reference to the occult. Magical circles are used during channeling spirits and summoning spirits to keep the spirits trapped in the circle. In her early music video for Supermodel, we see the same magic theme throughout the video, as SZA can be seen walking around with magic all around her, being greeted by fairies. At the end of the video, it appears like she sacrifices a man. Now think about it all. SZA came from a family, a part of high society that was connected to Hollywood. She was signed back in 2011 before she had any buzz or anything going for her, proving that she's an industry plant. She signed to TDE, a label full of occultists. Now, she's also showing us imagery proving she took the oath. It's obvious SZA's an occultist, and her music is pushing terrible agendas to the young girls who listen to her. Her music is full of destruction and chaos for the soul. She's influencing young women to sleep around, influencing women to be in toxic relationships, and influencing them to value their beauty more than they do themselves. SZA's pushing the same agenda the music industry has all the other Masonic puppets pushing. Her music is being used to guide young women away from God. None of these female artists they put in the spotlight are role models. They do not push values needed to be a good woman. Instead, they encourage women to live sinful, lustful lives that only destroy them, which is what the Scarlet Woman is. SZA took the oath, and if you can't see that by this point of the video, you need to wake up, my friend, as the proof is right in your face. Well, I'ma end this one here. But before you guys go, I just wanted to remind you guys to like, comment, and share this video so that it'll be recommended to others. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.